A small wooden coal skip, humble in appearance but steeped in history, sits at the Wollondilly Heritage Museum in the Oaks, New South Wales, 65 kilometres southwest of Sydney, Australia. This relic now represents the extraordinary story of a little mine called Nattai Bulli, tucked away in the Burragorang Valley. It's a tale of perseverance and transformation, how coal from this modest operation powered the booming city of Sydney and helped shape a region and a family from the north coast. But how did a simple mine in a quiet valley fuel a city and have a family go from rags to riches? Let's find out. It all starts in the late 1920s, in the town of Cardiff, not far from Newcastle. The world was on the brink of the Great Depression, and for families like the Clinton family, survival was a daily battle. Jack and Alice Clinton had 6 children: William, Raymond, Richard, Ernest, Alan, and Joy. Tragically, Raymond and Richard passed away at a young age. After being put off at a local mine, William, 21, and Ernest, just 14, with 2 others, were working alongside their father Jack in a mine known as the Blowfly, mining the coal by hand and supplying it to the brickworks operations in Sydney. Coal mining ran in their veins. Alice's father had been a colliery manager at Abermain, a tradition rooted in their Scottish heritage. One day while working the Blowfly, Ernest heard the roof creaking. He alerted his father, who ordered everyone to evacuate. 30 minutes later, the mine collapsed, taking with it the family's only source of income. No wonder no one was mining it. Jack was left with no choice but to tell Joe Smith, the coal agent. They couldn't supply coal anymore. But Joe had a lead. An investor named Dr. Wise had invested in mining leases in the Burragorang Valley with a Charles Kemp and John Cunston. On the 24th of October 1930, they had registered the Camden Colliery Company, and they were looking for experienced men to start their mine. Jack had never heard of the Burragorang Valley, but if there was work, he was willing to find out where it was. So, Jack, William, and Ernest packed up their pickaxes and shovels and made the journey, first by train to Sydney, then to Campbelltown, and finally pulling into Camden Station October 1930. Camden, at that time, was a small town, mainly focused on dairy farming and agriculture. In 1911, the Australian Bureau of Statistics recorded the population of Camden at 1,797 and Wollondilly at 4,849. The larger population in Wollondilly was largely due to the silver mines in Urundaree, but that's a story for another time. Coal had been discovered in the Burragorang Valley, however it was only being mined by the local residents for heating and cooking. That was about to change. The Clintons asked around and were told they could catch a ride on a truck headed to the valley, though they'd have to sit on top of the load. Ernest's first trip around the steep bluffs of the valley left a lasting impression. He could hardly bear to look down. When they arrived, they met Edward Riley, who ran the post office with his father, Philip, at Nattai. The Clintons stayed in a hall behind the post office, built years earlier to house bullock teams hauling silver ore from Urundaree. Soon after, the Clintons met Charles Kemp, also employed by Dr. Wise. He had already chosen a site to start mining. Jack disagreed with the location, warning that the coal seam would be difficult to reach. But Kemp insisted it was his decision. By Christmas 1930, the Clintons had reached their breaking point. Despite their relentless efforts, the coal seam remained elusive, buried beneath an overwhelming mass of rock. Worse yet, their labour had gone unpaid. Facing mounting frustration and despair, they made the difficult decision to abandon the valley just before Christmas. Desperate, they borrowed money from Alice's parents to afford the train fare back to Cardiff. Ernest, embittered by the experience, vowed never to return. 1931 brought new opportunities. Dr. Wise reached out to Jack again, offering to pay the unpaid wages and add additional finance to continue mining if they came back. Jack agreed, but on one condition: he would decide where to dig. Within 2 weeks of returning, they struck coal at the location Jack had chosen, a seam that would sustain the mine for 60 years. But there was still much to be done. They built chutes, storage bins, and infrastructure, all while hauling water by hand from the river. A horse from a local farm helped pull logs for construction. Tensions soon rose between Jack, Ernest, and Charles Kemp. After a heated exchange, Jack and Ernest left Nattai Bulli, finding work at South Kembla Colliery. In December 1932, Dr. Wise reached out to Jack, requesting that he return to Nattai Bulli. Jack initially refused, declaring there was no way he could work alongside Kemp. However, Dr. Wise assured him that Kemp had just been fired. With this news, Jack and Ernest agreed to return to the valley one final time. Over the next 18 months, operations ran smoothly, with production remaining steady. Each miner was required to fill 11 skips daily, amounting to 5.5 tons, all extracted with nothing but a pick and shovel. To be closer to the mine, Jack built a house on site, using local timber and flour bags sewn tightly together, coated with cement render. In 1935, there were 10 men working at Nattai Bulli, including Jack as manager. Among the workforce were 4 men who had come from the Balmain Colliery in Sydney after its closure. However, trouble loomed on the horizon once again. One Friday, while delivering wages, a company representative informed the Clintons that the mine was set to close in February 1935. The Great Depression was still impacting businesses in Sydney, and the company wasn't receiving enough orders to cover operating costs. Faced with this news, Jack and a group of the workers convened a roundtable meeting to discuss their future. It was during this meeting that they decided to approach Dr. Wise with a proposal to sublease the mine, offering to pay 6p per tonne of coal mined. The offer was accepted, marking the beginning of a new chapter. The 7 men, Jack Clinton, William Clinton, Ernest Clinton, William Parkin, Thomas Barris, Robert Bell, and John Comensoli, transitioned from mine workers to mine owners. At just 18 years old, Ern Clinton could not have foreseen that this would become the biggest turning point in his life. Nattai Bulli Coal Company was formed under challenging circumstances. The 7 men worked for half wages to cover the operational costs. Jack and William Clinton purchased 2 trucks to transport coal. However, with solid wheels, these trucks faced significant challenges on wet roads. Later, Ernest Clinton also acquired his own truck. Every truckload of coal had to be unloaded manually with shovels, as tipping mechanisms were not yet available. As orders began to increase, they secured contracts with the steelworks, gasworks, brickworks, power stations, and the Ryde pumping station, alongside numerous smaller orders. The mine primarily supplied large lump coal, leaving a growing stockpile of finer coal, which initially had no market. This changed when the brickworks adopted new technology requiring fine coal, providing an immediate market for the thousands of tons of fines stockpiled at Nattai Bulli. With demand surging, the Clintons required additional trucks, drivers, and miners. To meet this need, Clinton's Transport was established and more vehicles were purchased. In 1936, a contract truck driver named Stan Fox, using a Fargo truck, began carting coal for the mine. Shortly thereafter, he subleased an area north of the Nattai Bulli operations from Edward Riley, which later became known as Wollondilly Extended. Stan Fox also took over the lease of Wollondilly Colliery. As demand grew, Nattai Bulli embraced technological advancements, installing a conveyor system, electric shuttle cars, and continuous miners. Nattai Bulli was one of the first fully mechanised mines in Australia. A rail loading bin was constructed at Narellan Station, which once stood where Narellan Town Square is located today. Additionally, a brickworks was established in Narellan to build housing for employees, many of which still stand today in Camden and Narellan. Later, the Glenlee wash plant and rail loading facilities were built at Spring Farm. The Clintons expanded further, opening 2 additional mines, Valley 1 and Valley 2, and later venturing into the Western districts to open more mines. During the 1950s, Sydney faced frequent blackouts due to coal shortages and inconsistent quality. According to a 1951 news article, Nattai Bulli and Wollondilly Colliery produced 1,440 tonnes of coal daily, while Burragorang Power Station required 3,000 tonnes per day. The coal from the Burragorang Valley was widely regarded as the best in Australia, particularly for power generation due to its low ash content. Coal was sent to Balmain Power Station and to local markets in Camden and Liverpool, leaving little for Burragorang Power Station. The mine owners sought to increase production, but were nearing the end of their leases. Although they applied for lease extensions, their requests were initially blocked by the state government, as the proposed extensions would encroach on the site of a new state-owned mine planned for 1951. However, this mine was still years away from production. After significant protests, both Nattai Bulli and Wollondilly were granted lease extensions, allowing the owners to invest in new equipment and boost output. Post-war Japan also required coal to rebuild its infrastructure, and Nattai Bulli secured long-term contracts to meet this demand. Coal from Nattai Bulli, Valley 1 and Valley 2 was highly sought after by both BHP and Japanese industries for steel production due to its exceptional quality. By 1962, after more than 3 decades of hard, hands-on work mining the rich coal seams of the Burragorang Valley, the Clinton family made the difficult decision to hang up their picks and shovels. From humble beginnings, they had built a proud legacy, a family-run operation rooted in grit, sacrifice, and determination. Over those 30 years, more than 5 million tonnes of coal had been mined, fueling homes, industries, and entire communities across New South Wales. Their contribution was immense. That year, the Clintons officially sold their mining interests to the global mining giant Rio Tinto. It marked the end of a remarkable chapter in both the family's story and the history of coal mining in the valley. But while the Clinton name may have left the payroll, their legacy remains etched in the very landscape and in the memories of all those who worked alongside them.
Show me a way out, give me your side of the story. Throw me a rope here, I've drifted way too far. I see it sometimes behind those kind eyes. I see